Hello and welcome to VeeamON 2025. I am Rick Vanover, the Rickatron, and welcome to the online experience. We're going to talk to you about Veeam Intelligence here today, and I had to phone a friend and get some help, and I had the great opportunity to present with Kirsten Stoner. Good day, Kirsten.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Kirsten. Happy to be here talking about Veeam Intelligence today.
Indeed. In fact, Veeam Intelligence, a critical part of Veeam Data Platform, and we're going to show you some stuff really related to VeeamON, which is something that Kirsten has done a lot with. And we're also going to really give you a demo. We're going to show some early looks at this stuff. But Kirsten, why don't you walk us through our flow for this time today?
Yeah, so on the agenda, first we're going to hit on, what exactly is Veeam Intelligence. If you haven't heard about it before, this is a great session for you because we're going to go over exactly what it is. And then we're going to talk about some of the AI technologies that are used behind the scenes, hop into a demo and show you how it works. And then we're going to finish up with some resources that you can use to learn a little bit more about it.
Indeed. Good thing to point out is that this session is for the online experience. We will have this session at the San Diego experience, but they only get 15 minutes. They got a short bite session. So we have the opportunity to cover a little bit more depth here. So we're happy to jump into that. So let's start, first of all, with a definition. And I made it look like a dictionary entry here, Kirsten, but walk us through just explaining what is Veeam Intelligence.
Yeah, so in basic form, Veeam Intelligence is basically just an AI-powered chatbot that has the capacity for learning, reasoning, understanding, and advising on your Veeam data platform environments. So with this, it's really going to give you intelligence at your fingertips, really enabling you to stay up to date on what is happening in your infrastructure, enabling you to learn more about the product and how to use it so that you can better configure your backup jobs and let you know about any type of issues that are happening in real time so you don't have to go digging through the platform to find them. You can just say, hey, what are some alarms that are happening in my environment? It'll immediately be able to populate those for you so you can get right away to troubleshooting.
And I don't know about you, Kirsten, but I use a lot of VeeamON content all the time, Veeam content, but I feel like AI, having this type of extra edge is pretty attractive. But let's take a look at where it sits in the world of Veeam. Okay, so this is VeeamON. You're going to find all things Veeam at this event. But Veeam Intelligence, AI, and more are really an important part of our data resilience or our platform in general. So this is really the opportunity that we look at all products, Veeam Backup and Replication, Veeam Recovery Orchestrator, and VeeamON. And it's really important because those first two, those are what are doing the backups, right? People come to us for backup. That's why it's the top of the diagram here. But VeeamON is really able to give that intelligence of those different environments. So it's really, really exciting. But if you've not seen this visual from Veeam, it's relatively new. I think it would be featured on the keynotes. The thought here is that data recovery, data portability, data security, and then data intelligence is really this exciting one that we're dealing with today. And so when we look at Veeam Intelligence, one of the key parts of the Veeam portfolio, it's really about, a broader set of capabilities. Veeam Intelligence is just one of those, but data intelligence, what we have as a broader set, is also looking to other AI-powered technologies, including scoring, if you're familiar with some of the inline malware scanning and things like that. And then the Veeam Intelligence is really that assistant in product. And then there's also opportunities to reuse and get insights into that data. Now, this is part vision, part reality now, but we will definitely be walking down this path with you to give you more insights on your data. Data
Yeah,
intelligence. Yeah, it's
yeah.
exciting.
What I love too about the data intelligence and how it's become really a pillar or a core part of our platform is that really the intelligence part has been around for a while. It started with the intelligent diagnostics, being able to identify those common misconfigurations, and then just seeing how it's evolved and continued to increase the usability of our products so customers, can ask you questions, get answers, understand how their environment's performing. It's really cool to me. And what I'm really interested in seeing is just like this is just the beginning of, this chatbot, this Veeam Intelligence and VeeamON. It's almost like where is it going to go from here? So it'll be really interesting to see, in the future how much more intelligent it gets and how much more it can help us out when it comes to, data resilience.
Indeed, nothing but opportunities, and I think we all can agree with that. But kind of walk us through some additional pillars that go into what I like to call operational excellence with Veeam Intelligence.
Yeah. So how do we get Veeam Intelligence to work for you, right? And these are some of the AI technologies that we are using to help you get the answers that you're looking for. So it does use a large language model, which if you're familiar with that, it's an AI technology that's trained to understand, generate, and translate and summarize human text. So this is really going to make sure that when you ask it a question, it understands what you're asking it. Then when it gets the answer from, an API or the database, it can also translate that data to you so that you're able to read and understand it. It also uses the NLP-based search, so that's natural language processing search. So this is really going to help with information retrieval when it's using search engines to find information. So later on, we talk about some of the different modes that Veeam Intelligence has, and so for example, this would be used a lot when we think of the basic mode, being able to search online to find basic answers for your question. And then it provides, in-product assistance. So being able to leverage intelligence within the product itself. So if you come across something you're unsure about or you don't know exactly what it means, it's right there available to you to chat and you're able to get the answer you're looking for. And then lastly, you gain that reporting, which is always being able to connect to different sources of data to pull that information in to provide you with that answer. So with all of these different capabilities and these technologies that are included within Veeam Intelligence, it's really going to make sure that you're operating excellently within your data center, right, Rick?
Indeed, operational excellence for sure. And one thing I want to double down on, and you mentioned the dynamic reporting. Just to be clear, we've had the ability for years to write custom reports in VeeamON, but this is going to make it a lot easier, and you'll really make sense of that for the viewers once we go into the demo here. So we're really excited about this, but I think it was also would behoove us to just kind of explain what technologies are in use. I'll be the first to say there's a lot of AI noise in the market, but we're very practical and putting customer benefits first. So once we go into the demo, you'll definitely make that. But when I've talked to customers about this, I've actually had the request to turn it off, and we've built that in, Kirsten.
Yeah, because in some situations, right, it might not be the best fit for your environment, or maybe for some regulation or something or other, you might want to have it disabled, and that's available to you. We don't want to make you use something that you don't want to use, right? And so that's available to you, but by default, it is enabled in knowledge base mode or basic mode for some of you that might be on, 12.3 still, version 12.3. And basic mode is basically just the ability for users to ask basic questions to the AI. Questions like, what does backups on repository report tell me? And from there, Veeam Intelligence will be able to access the Help Center, provide you with the definition of what that report is, and also provide you with a link. So very basic knowledge, providing you with answers to questions that you might just not know the product even has, or maybe you saw the report and you don't understand what it means. While this mode is great for some situations, really where you're going to get those deeper insights is within the advanced mode. Now, the advanced mode is going to leverage the VeeamON REST API to provide you with those additional answers specific to your environment. So with this, you're going to gain information about installation, alarms, protection jobs, and best practices. So questions could be in advanced mode could be something like, is my Veeam backup server up to date with the latest version? Or what alarms are going off in my environment? So giving you a little bit more of a deeper insights, deeper understanding about what's actually occurring instead of just providing you with a definition. So advanced mode's really where the magic happens with Veeam Intelligence.
Yeah, and this, just to clarify, this is a screenshot preview, and we're going to jump into the environment here in a bit. This is a preview of what will be in VDP 13, right? So in 12.3, this is really just knowledge-based mode at this point, like you said, but we're going to show it. This is a screenshot of the future. So this is super exciting stuff. One thing I'll highlight is that when we walk through how this works in terms of what AI technologies are used, two terms I want to highlight: retrieval, augmented generation, or RAG. This is kind of new to me as well in the last few years, but the thought is, when these responses come back, there's a lot of different external discovery that goes on, but then it gets made better by an agent swarm, which is a collection of AI agents all working together for the common output. And that is how Veeam Intelligence is built. So let's take a look at how that works. And, Kirsten, I'm doing the screen share here, so you'll have to tell me when to click, but it starts with our client in VeeamON. What happens?
So basically, the client will ask a question, for example, has any of my backup jobs failed within the last 24 hours? From there, that question will go to that large language model, right? So it's going to decipher what that question means, and then understand it. And then from there, it's going to create a minute agent, mini agent, like Rick said, that agent swarm, and it's going to go to the VeeamON APIs, and it's going to go and he's going to retrieve that information from there. So this is going to look at the data. It's going to find, for example, the job history for the last 24 hours. Then it's going to pass that data back into the large language model. So decipher it, understand it, and make sure that when it delivers it back to you as our customer, as the user, that you're going to be able to understand and really know what that response means. So in reality, when you're looking at this, architecture model, you're like, that seems, there's a lot going on. But when you think about it, it's not really that much, because basically you're asking a question, it's deciphering the question, it's creating this agent that is going to, fetch that data from the different sources that it can, deliver it back to the language model, and then make sure that you understand it. So some really powerful stuff. And like you said earlier, Rick, like RAG, agent swarm, all these terms are new to you, but I feel like they might be new to a lot of people that are tuning into this session as well.
I'm sure that they are, but the other thing I got to highlight is once we go in and show you this, you'll really not have a clue that any of this is happening. And this is just a look under the hood. This is right from Jorge, the product manager of Veeam Intelligence and VeeamON. So the thought is the customer ease of use for an AI-powered solution right at your fingertips. So we're making it really important that it's not going to be some homework or science project to get there. All right, so that leads us to our demo. We're going to go and show you 10 top prompts in Veeam Intelligence, and I'm going to be the one on the hook here for the demo. So let's take a look. All right, let's see if I can switch over, and yep, I should be looking at VeeamON. Again, this is a preview of version 13. You're going to be like, that is not the VeeamON I know. That's right, we're doing a preview here. So let's go ahead and log in. And what I want to say right away, I mean, we're talking Veeam Intelligence, Kirsten, but this is getting pretty cool in terms of the new user interface.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this new user interface. As someone who's, worked with VeeamON back since like version 6.5, this new user interface is going to be so awesome for the product. It's going to increase usability, and it's so much more dynamics. It's just, I'm so excited for this part of V13 for sure.
Yeah, and a big shout out to Jorge. He's done a lot of work to get this to this point.
Yes.
So Veeam Intelligence, it sits up here in the top part of the web client here. This is a browser. I've got it full screen for visibility here. And this is when you launch Veeam Intelligence. Now, I'm not really good at typing and talking. I'm not going to lie. I have put these in the copy buffer, but let's talk about the first question here. I'm asking Veeam Intelligence. We talk about NLP, natural language processing. How's it going? Big day. Showing you off at the VeeamON in front of a lot of people. Now, then we get to the real meat of what's going on, the latest backup job status. Now, to be fair, the web UI showed me that ahead of time. In the start, I can discern a lot of that, but I can ask it these special questions here, and let's see what it comes back with. I would say one kind of caveat, like I said, this is a preview 13, so some of the queries, A, they have to warm up, and then B, they may take a little bit longer than what we'll have upon the GA, because this is a preview. But here we go. I love it. A little pep rally. Look at that. You don't need to be nervous. That's kind of cool. You've got this. Um, that's a pretty comprehensive view of backups and backup copy jobs. It looks pretty good to me, Kirsten.
Yeah, it does. And I'm glad that, we have some backup jobs running in our environment because if we didn't, we would be in big trouble, right, Rick?
That's a good point. Good point. All right, so I'm going to work it up a little bit. I'm going to ask a new question that I think is, just as important. It's one thing to know, a quick glance of what is protected, but I think it's also important to know what is not protected, right? That's, in my opinion, one of the more immediately beneficial pieces of information. And if I do look at the visual up here, there were some failed backups. Now, they could have been sorted out on a retry, but if there's anything not protected, this is, one of those types of things that I can go and put that into like the immediate to-do list. Here we go. Right now, it says everything is covered by existing backup jobs. And that actually most important part there is existing, right? So that tells us that we don't need to make anything new. So I like that. All right. So 2 for 2. All right. All right. Let's get a little bit more specific here. I'm going to ask Veeam Intelligence, what is not meeting a RPO of 1 day? Okay, so that's a little bit more tricky, right? So the recovery point objective, 1 day, 24 hours, especially if you think about a failure in a retry, maybe it slipped. Anything you want to add to this query, Kirsten?
I think that it's a good query to ask. I mean, recovery point objectives are important to in any organization, especially when you think about compliance, SLA. So this is good because if your recovery point objective is 1 day and for some reason a backup job was missed or a workload failed to be successfully backed up, this is going to let you know, hey, like that workload might not be meeting your RPO. And that means that if something were to happen, you might have some, data loss there due to that recovery point objective not being met.
Awesome. It says, looks like on the latest data, we are good for 1 day. That's awesome. All right. All right. So now I'm going to ask kind of a different type of question. Are all of the Veeam backup and replication servers up to date? Now, this is actually really important because there's hot fixes, there's updates. Now, this is V1 version 13, but Veeam backup and replication is likely at the time of VeeamON still at 12.3. There might be a hot fix or such by then. But the reality is we have to keep our Veeam backup and replication servers up to date. Let's take a look at what's under management here and just see what their current status is. And by the way, you can also get in-product updates from Veeam backup and replication of an update being available. So in-product notifications, I should say. So let's see what comes back with this question here. And again, this is an earlier build, so that we do expect the tuning of these queries to go a little bit quicker. But I also feel when we look at these queries, we're asking kind of specific things. So this is very much like doing some of those custom reports in VeeamON. And Kirsten, I got to think this is a little bit easier.
Yeah, I do think just getting the answers immediately at your fingertips is really going to help in general. And even with this question, are all my backup servers up to date? Like this is helpful. This information is helpful for a variety of reasons, right? You might have multiple backup servers in your environment, or maybe you have, different locations, but you're all managing the same backups or whatnot. And with security, today you make sure everything's up to date. We need to make sure that our security patches have been installed so that we can continue to protect our environment, right? So I love this question. And it is, rendering and taking a little bit of time here. But that's why it's thinking. It's thinking,
Oh yeah,
it's grabbing that answer. There's that data from that database, right?
it's going to give us an answer here. I'm convinced it will. And one of the things I'll highlight about when Veeam Intelligence is running this, that agent swarm, it has to kind of refine these answers and these questions as they come in. But we'll see what happens here. The server has this particular version number and it's up to date. That is happy days. Ah, look at this. Gives me a pretty interesting, you're up to date, but some of these other things are not enabled. Okay, so that makes me wonder what best practices are not. So let's go ahead and put that into our Veeam Intelligence question here.
Yeah, and I feel
So
like
now,
this takes a look at, even like the best practices analyzer, right?
right, the best practices analyzer inside of Veeam backup and replication, which that, since we're on it here, that helps feed the platform security scorecard, right? Which I think would be right here, right?
Yeah. So we should get some answers of maybe something like what best practices are followed, what configurations haven't been configured, and some alarms that are triggered within Veeam when that analyzer hasn't been run. So that's what I'm thinking that we're going to get as a response here.
Yeah, I'm also pretty certain that you can click over here and get like actionable widgets for some of the different elements of the platform security compliance. There it goes. So we get a number of things here on what best practices are not implemented. So this is really, really beneficial because I can take this as a to-do list to increase my platform security compliance. And this is a scrollable. I'm not pretty good at counting, but I'm pretty sure that those are the 18 red things over on the other side. So I've got that, again, right at my fingertips, and I can even scroll and just see a little bit more good stuff. All right. So I'm going to throw Veeam Intelligence a few curveballs, okay? So I'm going to, first of all, ask it, let's zoom in here. I've been traveling. I've been away from my desk. So, can you give me an overview of any alarms that I have in my environment, right? So it's one thing to know everything's being protected. I've got my to-do for increasing my platform security compliance, but kind of think about coming back from a trip and what do I need to work on? That's kind of the thought here with this type of question, but I have a little curveball with this question that I'm going to run next here. But I do like when we run this type of question, there we go. We get answers like, and by the way, just to note here, TBD is whenever there's a new capability here. So don't get too thrown out of loop there. Here's one, immutability. We don't have something in AWS using immutability. Now there might be a reason for that, might not, but it's there. Malware detection state, I'd want to look into that. So, and again, the security and compliance. So it's one thing to take the list that we just looked at, but now we're looking at the state, but then these other alarms, right? So that you got to work together with some of these things. All right. Now, Kirsten, you're going to say, what the hecka is that?
Yeah, what does that mean, Rick? Tell us.
So it's actually the same question, but in Spanish. And I want to highlight that Veeam Intelligence, right out of the box, is multilingual. Okay. And so let's see if we get the same answers. Okay. Now here, this is really interesting. That one was pretty quick because the answer was quote unquote kind of warmed up.
Mm-hmm.
But all we had to do really was put the language around it. And you see the same question. I get the same answers, but you can see that they're in Spanish. Now, I'm not too good with my Spanish anymore, but I can read it. It's pretty clear. It's pretty accurate for good Spanish. But I think we could also have some more fun with it. You ready, Kirsten? Okay, I'm copying and pasting. I can't type this fast, guys. Take a guess on a language.
I would have to say maybe, Japanese.
Yes, that's Japanese, indeed. The only character I understand in the whole question is vowel, is the question mark. Okay, well, we can actually then do these types of languages as well. So I just want to highlight the just the versatility here. And then the last question, I'm going to bring it back over to English just to kind of, close out some of our demo here. I'll just say what alarms are occurring in my virtual environment. Now, I will tell you, as this has gone through the earlier builds and stuff, I've done this type of demo where I switched languages and it actually stayed in the other language. Now, I'm really hoping that doesn't happen here today, but I just asked back in English what alarms are occurring in my virtual environment. Let's hope that I can get a, it's basically the same report, but it's just a shorter version. I'm not giving that extra information about I've been away and that type of thing. So we should get alarms of no in the virtual environment. And you see the difference here because it was in my backup environment.
Yeah.
Look at the source infrastructure and look at the Veeam infrastructure, and that is clear.
Yeah.
So pretty smart.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do really like how within the advanced mode, you can actually get more deeper insights in your environment. Because I'm pretty sure in the basic mode, you're not going to be able to get these alarms delivered to you as quickly as Rick got been delivered to him. It'll be more of like, this alarm means this type of deal, instead of actually being able to see them and understand them and almost see like which servers, are triggering them, right?
Yeah, you get really good actionable information. And I'm using someone else's environment here, but like when I start looking at the server names, the object names that come up in some of these reports and some of this different configuration, that'll start making sense to me, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to do one more question. Let's do one more question here.
What is the question going to be, Rick?
I am making one up here. Let me type it first because I'm not very good at that. I'm going to ask a question about repositories. So I'm going to ask, I could ask a question like, what backup repository is going to run out of space first? Or I could ask, what's the status of my backup repositories? Because that's one of the things I feel like a lot of environments need to worry about is their capacity.
Yeah.
But like just having these types of questions. So it's in Veeam. We can go and look at the data protection view. But again, I can use Veeam Intelligence for these types of questions. And this is one that we didn't plan. I'm adding one. And when we think about at least the topic here, top 10 prompts for Veeam Intelligence, I hope you really get the point that it's a versatile set of technology that comes to us with Veeam Intelligence so that you can really get this kind of AI-powered insights to your Veeam environment. And then it can even reach into your virtual infrastructure and your physical environments that are under management by Veeam as well. So let's see what this comes back with. Okay, so it's going to direct me to some of the reports, all right? So when we look at Veeam Intelligence, this is the type of thing that we will probably have to do a little bit more invasive of a look from a reporting standpoint. But again, what I like is that it gives you the links right to it. So again, where it has its limits, it'll direct you to how to do it. So it probably is going a little bit more knowledge-based mode rather than direct insights mode. But that's a great quick look at Veeam Intelligence. So Kirsten, why don't you talk about some of the additional resources we can have for organizations to do more with Veeam Intelligence?
Yeah, so we want you to be able to use Veeam Intelligence at your fingertips whenever you need to. So some of the resources we have here. So you joined our online experience, right? There's going to be other VeeamON sessions that you're going to be able to tune into as well. So Veeam Data Platform V13 overview and things to come. So this is going to give you an overview of the whole platform. So VDR, Veeam Recovery Orchestrator, and VeeamON. What's new, and then thinking about diving deeper into that. What are some of the technologies behind some of these new features? How can you use them? Some of the problems they solve in our deep dive super session. This will be at the event. So if you're in person in San Diego, make sure you add that to your schedule. If you're not able to attend in San Diego, we might have this available for you online a couple weeks later. And when I say might, we'll definitely make that available to you. And then also just making sure that you're prepping for V13 at any it's going to be a really great release. It's going to offer so many more features, functionalities, ease of use. So for more information about that, make sure you check out the QR code.
Yeah, good point. Couple of things to add. The QR code, you're like, what is that? I just brought my phone out and just double checked to make sure. There was a post in the forums about what will be deprecated capabilities in VBR 13. So now's the time to maybe move off. I think reversed incremental, for example, is going to be deprecated. Things like that. That could be an upgrade blocker. Now's the time to get onto that. The other thing I'll highlight, as Kirsten said, the deeper dive session, we're targeting 2 weeks, but myself, Kirsten, Emily, and Pavel from product management are going to give a deeper dive of Veeam Data Platform 13, which includes backup and replication and the orchestrator, as well as VeeamON, but we have a lot more VeeamON here in this session. And then at the San Diego event, there will be an in-person version of this session as well. Matt and Landra did that overview. That's a really good starter. So that's available now on the virtual experience. You can check that out. And just a reminder that VeeamON version 13 is coming soon, right? So it's going to launch with the 13.00 release. So we will be super excited for that. All right, Kirsten, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Rick.
All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. That concludes this VeeamON session for the online experience. Enjoy the rest of VeeamON.